Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name is Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, I have got wonderful news about that Zacian ADP League Battle Deck. Now, we talked about this previously, and we saw the front. And we knew that it was a deck that was going to be bringing us both Zacian and Arceus and Galerion Berserker. Now, for what it's worth, this is the best deck right now. Now, I'm not saying this League Battle deck is the best deck. I'm saying that Zacian ADP is the best deck. And yes, fine, if you take this pre-built deck, you'll probably have to make some changes before you go and actually start winning huge tournaments. But let's be perfectly clear, this is a phenomenal product. And for the price they're actually charging here, it is about the best value for money we've ever seen. I mean, it's retailing for $25. And it's got so much more than $25 worth in there. Now, we saw the League Battle decks previously. There was the Pikachu and Zekrom one, and there was the Reshiram and Charizard. And the Reshiram and Charizard one was not quite as good as the Pikarom, but they were both good. And I described the Pikachu and Zekrom one as the best theme deck ever. It's been beaten. This is even better than that. It is ridiculous, and I need to give a shout out to the lovely Alpha Tyrant TCG, who has gone and shared the deck list with us. So let's have a gander. We knew that we were getting 2 copies of Zacian V. We could see that from the front. This is the best Pokemon in the game right now. It doesn't have to be played with ADP. It is often teched into a bunch of decks because it's got the Intrepid Sword ability that lets you draw free cards. Now, it does end your turn, but if you're going first, you can't attack anyway. And if you hit any metal energy in those free cards, you can attach them to Zacian, which is great in a metal deck, in a deck like this, but we see this played in a whole bunch of decks just as a good turn 1 option to draw cards. Then free energy, 230 damage, is a really good attack, and you can't use it next turn, but all you need to do is bring up a new Zacian or switch to the bench and come active or whatever, and you'll be absolutely fine. We see this on a bunch of good attacks. We have done for years. It's never stopped these cards being playable, so frankly, I wouldn't worry your pretty little head about it. No, this is a very good Pokemon. Then you bring in Arceus and Galerion Berserker GX, and this is the card so good, a lot of the community are literally calling for it to be banned. For 2 energy, 1 metal, 1 water, you get to do 30 more damage on all of your attacks for the rest of the game. And every time you take a KO, you take an extra prize for the rest of the game. It is ridiculous how good this card actually is and how much of an impact it's making on the meta. Again, you don't have to play ADP with Zacian, but it's probably a decent idea that you do. It's pretty gosh darn good. Now, if you head over to Troll and Toad, it's just a random website that I know sells singles. I'm not endorsing it in any way. I'm just using it as an example. Arceus and Galerion Berserker will set you back around $11. And Zacian V will set you back around $7. Which is weird because those 3 cards together will be $25. And that's just the 3 cards we've got on the front. The rest of the deck is awesome. And just like in the Pikarom League Battle deck, we're getting 4 copies of Jirachi. Now, we haven't actually been told which of the Pokemon these are, but it's pretty obvious which ones they are. The Jirachi is one from Team Up's got the ability Stellar Wish. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck, find a trainer, put it in your hand, go to sleep. We need a bunch of switching cards to make it work, but as we're going to see in a moment, this has a bunch of switch and a bunch of scoop up net. And this is what I love about these League Battle decks. It's not just a bunch of good cards chucked together. The people making these have really thought about how they work. They're giving you Jirachi as a draw engine, which we see in a lot of decks still. But they're also giving you a bunch of switch and scoop up net so you can actually make the most of them. We've then got 2 copies of Oranguru. It's going to be the one from Sword and Shield. It's got a great ability, Primate Wisdom. Lets you swap a card in your hand with the top card of your deck, which is just a nice basic Pokemon that can sit on the bench and give you extra draw power. But they've also given you a copy of Mewtwo, which is assumably That's not a word. The one from Unbroken Bonds that's got the ability Mind Report. When you play it from your hand to your bench, you may put a supporter card from your discard pile on top of your deck. And then you use Oranguru to swap a random card in your hand for the top card of your deck, which is going to be the supporter card you just put back there with Mewtwo. These are all cards that see a lot of play. Like a huge amount of play in competitive tournaments. And they're all coming in this one deck. It is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact they're giving you Mewtwo and Oranguru together is just more proof of how much thought they're putting into this. There is a 1/1 line of Galerion Berserker here. Now, the Galerion Berserker is the awesome one that says that all of your metal Pokemon do an extra 20 damage on their attacks. Bearing in mind ADP is already doing an extra 30, which means that Zacian is now not hitting 230, it's hitting 280, which is enough to one-hit KO something like an ADP, or a Mewtwo and Mew, or something along those lines. It's very cool. We don't usually see Galerion Berserker being played that much in Zacian ADP, it's more of an occasional tech than a staple. But it's still a nice option, and it's kind of cool that they put it in here. The last Pokemon you get is a single copy of Galerion Zigzagoon, played for the Tantrum Headbutt ability. When you play it, or Headbutt Tantrum, from your hand to your bench, you may place 1 damage counter on one of your opponent's Pokemon. But bearing in mind, I've already told you that this deck has Scoop Up Net in, which will allow you to pick up your Galerion Zigzagoon and reuse this ability to drop extra damage counters. This Pokemon line is awesome. They're not going to give you 3 or 4 Zacian and 2 ADP. For $25, they can't. They are already going over the top in what they are giving you. So you get your 2 Zacian, 1 ADP, but then 4 Jirachi, 2 Oranguru, your 1/1 Galerion Berserker line, and your Zigzagoon and your Mewtwo. That is awesome. Hopefully the Meowth, and I'm willing to bet it will be, hopefully the Meowth will be the one from Rebel Clash that lets you discard 2 cards from your hand and then search your deck for a Galerion Berserker, i.e. it lets you just search it out because you're playing an otherwise completely basic deck. So you're only playing cards to search basic Pokemon, so you kind of need this Galerion Meowth. Given how great the decks are and how well they've been put together, I'm willing to bet this will be the case. Even though I believe there was a theme deck where it wasn't. But these ain't no theme decks, these are so much better. In terms of energy, we've got 8 copies of Metal Energy and 2 copies of Water Energy. You don't need much Water Energy, but you do need some Water Energy in order to use ADP's GX attack, so that's pretty important. And there's actually 1 copy of Aurora Energy here, which... it's a special energy that provides any kind of energy. You have to discard a card from your hand in order to use it, but it can pay for ADP, but it can also pay for Zacian's attack, so I am willing to forgive it, quite frankly. I'm willing to forgive it. Now, what is also really cool here is we've got a copy of Guzma and Hala. Guzma and Hala lets you search for a Stadium card, a Pokemon tool, and a special energy. And I've already told you about Aurora Energy here, but we've got a copy of Viridian Forest, which is a lot of the time the Stadium we see in ADP decks. Lets you discard a card from your hand and search your deck for a basic energy. Bearing in mind you're only playing 2 basic water, you are going to need a way to search it, and this will do that. In terms of tools, we've got ourselves a Big Charm. Gives an extra 30 HP. It is the tool that most people choose to play in this deck, which is really kind of ridiculously awesome. And as we keep going through the deck, we'll run through the rest nice and quickly. It keeps being good. 2 copies of Boss's Orders, drags a Pokemon from the bench to the active. This is a staple in every, and I mean every deck right now. Getting 2 copies in here is kind of ridiculous. You know, this alone is a $3 to $5 card in most places. 2 copies of a $3 card in addition to everything else is kind of awesome. Copy of Energy Spinner. If you go second, it lets you search for free basic energy. If you go first, only 1, but still, you see it played in Zacian ADP decks a lot. We've got 3 copies of Energy Switch, and we've got 4 copies of Metal Saucer. Now, Metal Saucer is an absolute staple in every metal deck. Lets you attach a metal energy from your discard to one of your benched metal Pokemon, which is awesome. because it gets you going faster. If you're going to play metal, you need this, and there's just a playset in here. And you need this with the energy switch so that you can metal saucer onto a Zacian, energy switch to an ADP, attach water for the turn, and then get that turn 1 GX attack. That is fairly important. We've got a copy of Great Catcher here. Discard 2 cards from your hand and then drag a GX from your opponent's bench into their active. It's a great card, pun intended. It also works on EXs, but they've rotated out of standard. Relevant and expanded, rotated out of standard. But bearing in mind, ADP lets you take an extra prize on every KO you take, so you'll often use this to drag a Dedenne up or something similar, and then take 3 prizes, which is halfway to winning the game. You see Great Catcher played in these decks. There's a copy of Mallow and Lana, which is a switch that heals 120. It's a good card that sees a huge amount of play, but again, it's something we see in ADP. 4 copies of Marnie, and look, I know that competitive players by now have a playset of Marnie, but not everyone picking up this deck is going to be a big competitive player that's been playing for ages. Marnie is again a staple in almost every deck. Everyone needs a playset of Marnie, and you're just given a playset in this deck. Both players shuffle a hand, put them on the bottom of their deck. Person who played it gets 5 cards, the other person gets 4. It refreshes your hand while hopefully disrupting your opponent a little bit, which is awesome. There's a copy of Ordinary Rod, which recovers your Pokemon and basic energy. Again, we see this played in the majority of decks. 4 copies of Professor's Research. This is the other staple supporter. The generic supporter line for the vast majority of decks right now starts with 4 Professor's Research and 4 Marnie. The fact that you get a playset of each of them in this deck is ridiculous. 4 copies of Quick Ball. This is the other card, which is a staple in basically every deck right now, because you discard a card from your hand and search for a basic Pokemon. Again, the vast majority of decks play 4, and you get a playset in here. And imagine you're a new player who's just getting into the game, and this deck will give you 4 Quick Ball, 4 Professor's Research, 4 Marnie, 2 Boss's Orders. That lineup of cards goes into basically every single deck. That is pretty much a quarter of every deck around right now, and it's just casually popped in this deck. It's ridiculous. I mentioned Switch and Scoop Up Net. You get free Scoop Up Net for Switch. There's a copy of Tag Call, lets you search for 2 tag team cards, but bearing in mind you're playing ADP, and I've already mentioned a couple of tag team supporters, Guzma and Hala and Mallow and Lana, that's kind of ridiculous. We kind of need that. And then we've got the 1 copy of Iridian Forest that I've already mentioned. I was overly enthusiastic about my praise for the Pikachu League Battle Deck, or the Pikarom League Battle Deck, and how great value it was, and how awesome it was for newer players, or really just players that for whatever reason hadn't picked up some of these cards. This is better. This is even, and I bought the Pikarom League Battle Deck, and I'm going to buy this one, and I'm telling you now, there's no clickbait, there's no hyperbole, there's no exaggeration. I'm putting these 2 deck lists side by side, and I am telling you that I like this one more. I think this is a better deck. It is ridiculous. And the fact that Pokemon are actually making these decks, what I would ask of you is, firstly, if you want to buy it quickly, because these are likely to sell out. But secondly, if you can, if you're in a position to do so, if you have the inkling, support Pokemon when they do stuff like this. Buy these decks, make these decks sell out, make the sales numbers for these decks awesome, so that Pokemon turn around and go, oh, we should do more of this kind of stuff. Because I, for one, am delighted. But I'd like to know what you think. So let me know in the comment section, would ya? Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.